Hey there, fellow nature wanderers. If you're like me, you love spending time outdoors, breathing in that fresh air and connecting with the natural world. But at home, have you ever thought about what's in the products you use every single day? That's why I'm excited to share Apple Valley Natural Soap with you. Their handcrafted all-natural soaps are made with organic ingredients, essential oils, and no harsh chemicals. Awesome! So they're not only great for your skin, but they're safe for the planet. And they don't just stop at soap. Apple Valley Natural Soap also carries a full line of natural skincare products, including shampoos, body butters, facial bars, and more. All designed to nourish your skin without synthetic ingredients. You can't beat that. That's just awesome. Whether you're hiking in the woods or just winding down after a long day, their products bring a little bit of nature right into your home. And the best part? By supporting Apple Valley Natural Soap through The Nature Wanderer, you're also supporting this podcast. Just head to the show notes and click on the link for Apple Valley Natural Soap. So go ahead, treat yourself and the environment to something better. Your skin and Mother Nature will thank you. Now let's get on with our adventure. Hello, fellow wanderers. Welcome to the Nature Wanderer podcast. I'm your host, Paul, and today we're embarking on an adventure to explore a fascinating creature of winter, the snow flea. Yes, you heard that right, snow fleas. If you're wondering, what on earth is a snow flea? Don't worry, by the end of this episode, hopefully you'll be well versed in the world of these tiny critters and maybe even a little bit of a snow flea fan like I am. I remember my first encounter with snow fleas. I was just walking up my driveway and saw all these little specks of black in the snow and wondered what it was. I thought, maybe someone took a pepper shaker, or maybe it's some sort of shavings. I don't know. But then I noticed one of those little specks moved. That's right. That's when I knew it was some sort of live creature. I took pictures and did some research and found out all about the fascinating world of snow fleas. And I'd like to share some of that information with you because, like I said, I've become a fan of the snow flea. They're really pretty interesting little critters. So let's dive right in with the basics. First of all, snow fleas. They're scientifically known as, let's see if I get this one right, Hypogastrura nivivicola. Wow, that one was a tough one. They aren't actually fleas, though, at all. They belong to a group known as springtails, which are small, wingless creatures primarily found in moist environments like snow. You see, while most people associate small little critters like this with the word flea, these little guys don't even belong to the insect family. They are hexapods, which puts them in the same class as insects, but in a different subclass, known as Entognatha. Okay, enough of the scientific classification stuff before I massacre more words. You know how I am with the Latin names. Let's talk about where they're found. Snow fleas. Most commonly found in northern hemisphere. Obviously, there's snow there, especially during the winter months. They're often spotted bouncing around on snowdrifts, seemingly defying the freezing temperatures. It's an amusing sight, actually. They are trudging through the snow, and then suddenly tiny black specks are hopping about like they're having a party. Like I said, my first experience and every experience with snow fleas since, this is what I've seen. These little black spots hopping around on top of the snow. So to give you a visual, imagine a chilly winter day where the world is blanketed in a fresh snowfall. We just had a really beautiful fresh snow here. I always love it after a nice snow because the fresh snow is so pure white before all the snowplows come along and stir up all the yucky dirt and tire yuck. And yeah, well, anyhow, bright white snow. Okay, and then all of a sudden you see on the surface of that bright white snow a spot. And these little guys leaping joyfully around the snow, that's what really catches your eye. Well, these little flecks, yep, that's our snow flea. Since my first encounter with them, I've seen them many times in the winter as I've been out hiking, sometimes even in my own yard, just walking down the driveway. I see them all the time now because I'm looking for them. Now, most people, when they do spot a snow flea, they assume that they are truly a flea and thus an insect. But insects aren't made to withstand the cold temperatures, at least most insects. And they're usually hibernating beneath the ground or perhaps behind the tree bark. So how do these small little critters survive in such a frigid environment? Yeah, they can hang around all winter long on top of the snow, and they go down in the snow as well. So how do they do this? Well, these resilient creatures, they have special adaptations that allow them to not only survive, but also to thrive in the cold. For starters, snow fleas possess unique proteins that act as antifreeze. So we always think of antifreeze as being in our cars. No, it's in wildlife too. Not the same kind of antifreeze. It's just a substance that prevents them from freezing, so we call it an antifreeze. The proteins that are inside of these critters, the snow fleas, they prevent ice crystals from forming within their bodies. This allows them to stay active even when the temperatures plummet. So how does this flea protein work? Well, that's what I'm going to call it, a flea protein. Unlike traditional antifreeze compounds like glycerol in insects, some insects do have glycerol in them, which allows them to have this antifreeze property. Snow fleas, their antifreeze proteins, or I'm going to start calling them AFPs for short, are protein-based, making them more efficient at lowering the freezing point. These proteins bind to ice microcrystals, preventing them from expanding into larger, damaging ice crystals. Can you imagine if these ice crystals inside of the snow flea started to expand? Basically, it would cause the snow flea to explode. The specific AFPs in snow fleas are rich in glycerin and proline, which make them highly flexible and stable. Unlike some AFPs in fish or insects, snow flea antifreeze proteins, the AFPs, do not require extreme cold to be activated, making them functional even at relatively mild sub-zero temperatures. Now, scientists have been studying these AFPs because they're thinking there might be some use for them, maybe in, cryopreservation of tissues, organs, even cells. Hey, why not take a look at it? It might help us. Also, they're looking at it maybe improving frost resistance in crops, so our crops won't dwindle quickly if there's a frost. And they're also looking into this AFP for developing better de-icing solutions for surfaces and materials, maybe for de-icing airplanes. So anyhow, enough of the AFPs. I think you understand how they work. I hope I went into enough detail for you. And how do they get around? How do these snow fleas get around? I talked about how I'm hopping around on the snow. How do they do that? Do they have wings? Well, this is where it gets interesting. Snow fleas utilize a structure that's known as a furca. It's basically a tail-like appendage. They can use it they can flex and release it, catapulting them into the air. They can leap almost 20 times their own body length. I mean, that's amazing. And you're thinking, well, so what? This guy's really tiny. Well, let's put in human terms, okay? That would be like one of us, a 6-foot person, leaping 120 feet into the air. Can you imagine having some appendage that just tosses you in the air 120 feet? That's what the fleas are doing. I mean, when you're seeing them hop around on the snow, they're not hopping up 120 feet into the air. That would be if they were 6 feet tall, but these guys are really tiny, so they're going about 20 times their body length. And you may be wondering, what do snow fleas eat? What's their diet like? Well, I would think they're eating snow. That's why they're on the snow. But how much nutrition is in snow? It's just water. They're not getting a lot of nutrients out of water, so that's not their diet. No, their diet is just as interesting as their ability to leap 20 times their body length. You might assume that they're feasting on the snow, like I said, but they're actually scavengers. They primarily feed on decaying organic matter, mold, fungi, that sort of thing that's found in the leaf litter beneath the snow. So in doing so, they play a crucial role in the ecosystem. They're actually helping to break down dead plant material, so they're contributing to nutrient cycles in the soil, which enriches the ground for future plant growth. So leave those leaves behind on your ground in the fall. I mean, rake up some of them, but you can leave some behind so that the snow fleas have something to eat. If you rake them all up and you don't leave any, you're not going to get the snow fleas, and that would be disappointing. You're thinking, I don't want fleas, but remember, they're not really fleas. Now, it's hard to believe that such a tiny creature, barely visible to the naked eye, is so vital in maintaining ecological balance, but they are. And speaking of their role in the ecosystem, did you know that snow fleas are also indicators of biodiversity? Yeah, their presence actually signifies a rich, healthy environment. Areas with thriving populations of snow fleas usually hint at a robust ecosystem filled with a wide variety of other organisms as well. Now, let's take a moment to consider some ecological concepts as temperatures fluctuate due to climate change. Climate change affects a lot of animals, but creatures like the snow flea are really affected. You see, warmer winters can alter their habitats and foraging habits. Well, there are clever little survivors. Shifts in the environment from climate change could impact the populations. And I've mentioned this with other species too during other episodes. So if it's impacting their populations, it's also impacting the role they play in their ecosystems. Every change in nature, no matter how small, even with these tiny, small little critters here, can ripple through the ecological network. And that affects everything from nutrient cycling to other wildlife. So let's take a closer look at the role of the snow flea in the ecosystem. In addition to breaking down organic matter, like I mentioned, they also serve as a food source for other animals. And you're thinking, that's not a lot of food, that tiny little thing that's hopping around on the snow. Well, small birds, like chickadees, nuthatches, they feed on the snow fleas. That provides these birds with a vital source of protein during the winter months. Hard to find food in the winter. They need that protein to keep the fat on, to keep warm and keep energy up. Even small mammals like shrews, mice, they'll snack on the snow fleas when they can catch them. Remember, they are able to leap away from their predators. Remember, 20 times their body length. Sorry, I keep bringing that up. That just amazes me. So these guys can get away from a lot of the predators that are after them. So while snow fleas may seem insignificant, these tiny little guys, they do play a crucial role in supporting the food chain. Now, it's also worth noting that snow fleas are an important indicator species. What I mean by that, changes in their populations can signal broader changes in the ecosystem. For example, if snow flea populations decline, it could indicate that the ecosystem is struggling to support other species as well. And on the other hand, if snow flea populations thrive, if they're doing great, it could indicate that the ecosystem is healthy and resilient. So they are an indicator species. Now, let's talk about some fascinating facts and myths surrounding snow fleas. One common myth is that snow fleas are harmful pests because they're often confused with regular fleas. They have the name flea in their name, after all, but people think they'll bite or infest pets and homes. But fear not, snow fleas don't bite, and their presence in winter landscapes is entirely harmless. In fact, they pose absolutely no threat to us or our furry friends. My dogs have no problem being outside in the winter. They're not going to have snow fleas attacking them. So no worries. If you see these tiny little dots on the snow, don't keep your pets indoors. Don't stay away. Investigate them. They're harmless to us. So instead of being afraid of them and thinking of them as harmful pests, remember, snow fleas are a fascinating sign of life in an otherwise frozen world. The next time you're outside observing the winter scenery, take a second to appreciate the vibrancy and resilience of these little creatures. Let's explore some conservation efforts that impact snow fleas and their habitats. Remember, they're an indicator species. If they're not doing well, that usually means the habitat's not doing well. So, as we discussed earlier, climate change is affecting snow flea populations and their ecosystems. So to mitigate these effects, conservation efforts are underway to protect and restore habitats that support snow fleas and other winter-adapted species. And one thing that you can do, like I mentioned, leave some of the leaves behind. Let them start decaying. I mean, it helps to add nutrients underneath the snow to the soil. And it also helps the snow flea population. So that's what you can do to help. But some other things that are happening, well, one example is the creation of a snow flea friendly habitat. Yeah, a lot of urban areas are starting to make snow flea friendly habitats, just like I said you can do in your yard. You can leave the leaves behind, but you can also plant native vegetation. They're doing this in different urban areas. Planting native vegetation, reducing pesticide use. Cities can create winter habitats that support snow fleas in this way. Additionally, efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and slow climate change, that helps. It prevents snow flea populations from disappearing and also the ecosystems from being damaged. So anything you can do to help slow down climate change helps the snow fleas. So the next time you're outside in winter, remember that even under the layers of snow, life does persist. Take a moment, recognize and celebrate those small but mighty organisms that work quietly in the background. They're helping us in the long run. Now, before I wrap up this episode, I'd like to entice you with a little challenge. I challenge all of you, the next time it snows, grab your warmest coat, a pair of waterproof boots, and head outside. Take a slow, deliberate walk, slow, I said, through your neighborhood or a nearby park even. Look closely at the snow. Stop and look around once in a while. See if you can spot these delightful little snow fleas in action. Try to observe their movement. You might even bring along a magnifying glass or maybe your smartphone for some close-up shots. Capturing these little critters on camera could make for a fun nature documentation project for you. And actually, you could even share your findings on social media using the hashtag, okay, hashtag the Nature Wander. That way we can all appreciate the beauty of winter together. So there's your challenge. Get outside, see if you can find some snow fleas and share them on the Nature Wander's social media, or you can even do a hashtag the Nature Wanderer. Now, as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with the sense of wonder and awe for the natural world. Snow fleas may be small, but they play a significant role in their ecosystems. By learning more about these fascinating creatures, we can gain a deeper appreciation of the complexity and beauty of nature. So, the next time you're outside, take a moment to look for snow fleas, observe their movements, learn about their habitats, and appreciate the resilience. And who knows, you might just discover a new favorite creature, like I did. I enjoyed these guys. I hope you enjoyed listening today. Be certain to share the podcast with your nature-loving friends so that they, too, can learn more about the natural world around them. If you'd like to support the podcast, visit the show notes for a link to my Ko-Fi page. And you can also support the podcast by purchasing awesome items at my online merch store. And if you like to journal your wanderings through nature, be certain to purchase a Nature Wanderer Nature Journal. All the links are in the show notes. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Stop back next week for another episode of the Nature Wanderer podcast. Have a great day and keep exploring the nature around you. Hello, friends. I hope you're out wandering through nature, exploring the natural world around you. Do you enjoy writing about your wanderings? Nature journaling is an awesome, fun way to remember all the adventures you have taken and how you felt during those journeys. If you're looking for some beautiful journals to keep track of all your wanderings, I have several available on Amazon, including some guided journals for children. Start your journey in journaling by clicking on the link in the show notes. Keep exploring the nature around you and keep journaling all your wanderings.